Hey, good morning and welcome to part one of this three-part Excel Masterclass series together with Orchet. It's great to be here with you on this Tuesday morning. The clock's just gone 9 o'clock here in Joburg. And welcome to each of you. It's great to have you with us. Thank you for joining. We're now in our spreadsheet and we can start to have a look and start to unpack what's actually going on in the spreadsheet. You'll notice that there's about 10 columns of data. And if we scroll down, there's a lot of data. We'll have a look at that in a moment. We also notice that there's only one sheet. All right, so it says sheet one. We also notice that we've got data Orchet session one with today's date, and then it says read only. Okay, now guys, your version of Excel might look slightly different. Okay, and that's because you might be using an older version of Excel. Microsoft is trying to get everybody onto Microsoft 365, which is the annual subscription version of Microsoft and of Microsoft Office. That just means that they want you to be paying an annual fee, and then you get updates in real time. So you don't have to wait for every 3 years like you used to when you used to go to Incredible Connection and get the disk and then load the latest version onto your computer. It's happening in real time and you pay a month or an annual subscription for that. Okay, so that being said, we're not going to go any more into that. What I just wanted to tell you is that your version of Excel might look slightly different. The colors might be different. Certain features might not be there. But for our purposes, over the course of these 3 sessions, everything, all the functionality will be there. So don't get too phased and thrown off if this on my screen is green and on your screen it's not green. It's all good. Okay, what we'll notice as well, as I said, is this is a read-only file, and that's because we just opened this from a zipped folder. So best practice is, and we're going to be dealing with a lot of best practices over the course of these sessions, best practice is to start off by saving this particular document in a location that makes sense, that is memorable for you, that is logical for you, and that is also backed up into the cloud, so that if anything happens with this file or with your computer in general, then there'll be a backup. It'll be cloud-based. It will not disappear into cyberspace. Okay, so we want to get into that habit. We're not going to just press Control S, which is to save. We're actually going to press a keyboard shortcut, which is a real winner. All right, it's a keyboard shortcut that you can use across Microsoft applications, not only on Excel. All right, and you can press F12 on your keyboard, and that opens up the Save As window or dialog box. Okay, so you can see there in the top left, it says Save As. All right, Avi is going to be on the ball, as always, with the keyboard shortcuts in the Zoom chat. So watch out for those keyboard shortcuts, which will be popping up in the chat as well. I'll be telling you the shortcut. We'll be doing it on the screen, and you'll also be getting a reminder of it in the Zoom chat. And also, we're going to be opening up in a few moments the keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet, which is a great resource. You're more than welcome to print that out. You're welcome to laminate it. It's 2 pages. I'll open it up in a few moments. You're also welcome to share it with your team as well. But what we notice when we're in the Save As dialog box is that the address up here is a strange, messy looking subfolder within this app data local temp. And that's because we've opened it up from a zipped folder, which has been downloaded off the internet. And that's not where we want to be saving stuff. We don't want to be working in that folder. Don't want to be saving things in that folder. What we want to be doing is working in Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive, somewhere cloud-based, and somewhere where it's going to sync with our colleagues and it's going to be backed up across our different devices. So for us at Excel Academy, that means Dropbox. And what I've done is you can see down the left-hand side, I've pinned certain folders. All right, these are some accounting folders. There's our rate card. Here's our marketing folder, our legal folder. And here is the February Orchet Masterclass series folder we've got session 1 here, session 2, and then there'll be session 3. So I'm going to go into session 1 and there's the file. All right, what you can do is you can save it somewhere meaningful and memorable for you. You're obviously not going to have the same folders as I've got here, and you're going to save it. And you'll notice that on mine, it says copy of. So I'm going to go and stand there and press shift home. I don't want the words copy of. So I'm going to press delete. I'm going to go end. And then instead of naming it the exact same thing, I'm going to put at the end my initials so that I know and my team knows that I've worked on this particular file. All right. and it's actually saying you can't save here, which is interesting. I've never seen that happen before. Let's try here. Okay, there we go. I'm not sure exactly why it said I can't save there, but anyway, let's not get too derailed by that. That's okay. All right, I trust that you have saved the file somewhere. What I am going to ask you to do as well is you'll notice at the bottom of your Zoom window, probably at the bottom, you've got a little react button, little reactions button. What I want you to do is I want you to react. All right, I want you to react when it's appropriate by giving me a thumbs up or giving me a heart or giving me some kind of emoji reaction. There we go. There we go. Just to make sure that all of you know where that is, give me a thumbs up or one of your favorite emojis now. I want to make sure that everybody is alive, awake, alert, and enthusiastic, as Robin Banks says. Okay, and there we go. I see the emojis flying up on my second screen over here. Okay, that's great. All right. Okay. Otherwise, it sometimes feels like I'm talking to myself. Sometimes I do talk to myself, but it's much more fun when I get some responses. Okay. And remember, this is a webinar, so you can't turn your camera on, you can't unmute yourself, but you can react and you can also type in the chat or ask questions in the Q&A. All right, guys. So we're conscious of time. We've got an hour together this morning and then another 2 sessions. So the purpose of today's session is to start getting oriented around the Excel screen. We're going to learn a few shortcuts. We've already seen F12. What I'm doing now is I am toggling windows and I'm using Alt and Tab on the keyboard. I use my left hand, okay, Alt with my left thumb and then Tab with my left index finger. All right, Alt, Tab. It toggles me between the last 2 windows that I've used. All right. Alt and Tab, similar to the Alt key on your, if you have DSTV, you'll know that there's an Alt key or Alt button on the DSTV remote, and that toggles you between the last 2 channels that you've used. So Alt stands for alternate, I think. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up the keyboard shortcuts for PC. All right, that's in our zipped folder, and here you can see it opens up this PDF. If I hold down the Control key with my left pinky, and then I scroll with the wheel on the mouse. All right, I can scroll in or out. Okay, so that's great. That's for zooming. All right. And what you'll see as well is that there are keyboard shortcuts for so many things across so many different applications. And it's great to start adopting a mindset of becoming a keyboard person. So we got a reminder there at the top of the cheat sheet that I am a keyboard person and so are you. And if we go to the menu at the top of Adobe and we look at the view option over here, you'll see that we got read mode, which is Control H, and full screen mode, which is Control L. So we're going to read mode, Control H. That looks a lot cleaner. Okay, we can zoom in a little bit to try and make it all fit page 1 on that screen, or we can press Control L, which actually goes into full screen mode, even cleaner. All right, so there it is. There's page 1 and there's page 2 of the cheat sheet. All right, thank you, Avi, for posting those 2 keyboard shortcuts over there. And we've got page 1 and page 2. So far, we've seen F12, which is save as, and as Avi mentioned in the chat, it's also function and F12, depending on your keyboard. Okay, so depending on the specific settings and layout of your keyboard, a lot of keyboards are made differently. Not all keyboards are equal. You'll see mine over here. I've actually got a full-size wireless keyboard. You'll see on the side there, I've got this number pad. Okay, so I've got this number pad, and on a typical laptop, you don't have the number pad. Okay, and the function key is where? The function key, I actually don't seem to have it on this laptop. Your FN key might be somewhere there between Control and Alt, and you might need to hold that together with F12 in order to activate the F12 feature. And that's why Avi has said there function and F12. All right. Another very common F key shortcut is F2, all right, which is to edit a cell. And then here we've got a list of alphabetical control key shortcuts. And if we go back to page 1, you'll see there's a bunch of navigation shortcuts, selection shortcuts, formatting shortcuts, and we're going to be looking at a whole lot of them over the course of these 3 sessions together. All right, but before we dive headfirst into this data over here, what we're going to do instead is we're going to actually do a warm-up. Before you run a big race, it's always a good idea to warm up to make sure that our muscles are ready and warm before we start going full steam ahead. Okay, so in order for us to do a warm-up, it's a good idea to actually create a brand new sheet tab. Okay, and with that in mind, it's also a good idea to name our tab. So instead of sheet 1, what we're going to do is we're going to double click on sheet 1. I'm going to call it data because this is where our data is sitting. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a new sheet tab. All right, I'm sure you guys are aware that you can click on this little plus button to create a new sheet tab. It calls it sheet 1 and it puts it on the right. I can also delete a sheet tab by right clicking on it. All right, and you'll see I've got insert, delete, I can rename, move or copy. I've got a whole lot of different options here. I can change the tab color. You can see a preview of what the tab will look like with a specific color. You can hide a sheet, you can select them all, you can do a whole lot of things here, but for now, we actually just want to delete it because what I want to do is I want to show you a shortcut on the keyboard for creating a new sheet tab, and that shortcut is Shift and F11 on our keyboard. Shift and F11, the only difference is it puts it on the left-hand side of our current sheet. So there we go. It's now called it sheet 2 and it's on the left-hand side. So that was Shift and F11, which Abby will put into the chat. And once again, I'm going to double click on it and I'm going to call this warm-up. All right, and in the warm-up sheet, by the way, I can zoom in once again with holding control with my left pinky and then scrolling with the wheel on the mouse. So control and scroll. And what I want to do is I want to give you an opportunity to create a list from 1 to 20 in cells A1 to A20. All right, and I want to give you 10 seconds to do that. Your time starts now. All right, 3, 2, 1, and time's up. Pens down, as they say. And who can tell me in the chat if you were able to create a list from 1 to 20 in those 10 seconds? All right, welcome, Hillel. Sorry that you were delayed, but you'll be glad to know that we are recording the session. And Avi can pop you a private message with the downloads so that you can work along with us. All right, but for now, just follow along. And was anyone available or was anyone able to actually create a list from 1 to 20? All right, Jenny, excellent. How did you do it, Jenny? Fine? You dragged it. Well done. So I'm assuming you typed in 1 and 2, and then you selected both of those cells, and you clicked on the bottom right-hand corner, and you clicked and dragged down, right? All the way down to 20. Okay, that's fantastic. Well done, Jenny Fine. Well done to anyone else who did it. And well done to those of you who attempted it. This is a great feature within Excel. It's called the fill handle. In our Excel 101 course, we call it the overachiever of the mouse personalities. Why do we have mouse personalities? Because you'll notice that the default for the mouse cursor, it looks like this chunky plus sign. But when we move it to different parts of the Excel screen, we get different shapes and features and functions of the mouse cursor. All right, so this is the full handle. It's designed to be like a handle that we can pull down and fill in a bunch of data. And we can, maybe what you did is you might have actually, let's press Control Z to undo. Control Z again. Control Z is a great keyboard shortcut just to quickly undo what we did. Maybe if you typed in the number 1 and then you drag down, you might have tried that and gotten a whole list of ones. And that's because Excel doesn't know that you want it to be a pattern. So it just thinks you want to replicate this cell all the way down. So in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got autofill options, and we can click on that. And you'll notice that it's got the first option selected, which is to copy cells. Then we've got full series, and then a couple more options. If we clicked on full series, then it overwrites the list of ones to become a list from 1 to 20. All right. All right, now, guys, in column B, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few other patterns that we can leverage this tool with. All right, so what are some other patterns of data that we often see? Let me know in the chat what other patterns or series of data are common when it comes to Excel. Any ideas? Okay, let me know. Let me know. I'm waiting to hear from you. Oh, there we go. Monique Thomas. Excellent. Monique has said dates. Okay, so Monique is spot on. David Tucker has said days and months. That's excellent, guys. Thank you for your participation here. Great ideas. We're going to start with dates. And in order to punch in today's date, we know that it is the 11th of February. We can usually see it in the bottom right-hand corner of our Excel screen, or we can check our desktop calendar, or we can just tell Excel to put in today's date. We can do that with a special formula in Excel, but this time we're not going to be doing the formula. I want to show you a keyboard shortcut which types it in for us, and that keyboard shortcut's very useful. You'll love it. It is, listen very carefully, it is Control semicolon. All right, and the semicolon is found next to the letter L on our keyboard, and you can see we're currently inside that cell to put in 2025/02/11. Yours might be in a different format, but that's okay. I've just got this as my default year, month, day, date format. And there we go. Avi has mentioned there, Control and semicolon to insert the date. We press enter. And there we go. It's also widened the column. It's entered today's date. And what we can do is we can once again click on this fill handle in the bottom right-hand corner. We can drag down and we see a preview of the data in each of those cells as we go down. All right. And we can press Control Z to undo. And what I want to show you, if you've never seen this before, you're going to be quite wowed by this. We're going to go to the bottom right-hand corner, but we're going to double click. And there we go. It snaps it all the way down. And now we know that day 20 is the 2nd of March. How did it know how far down to go? It simply looked at the length of the list on the left-hand side, or if there was a list on the right-hand side, it didn't look at the content. Didn't matter what was actually in the cells. It's more concerned with the fact that it goes the full length of the list. So it matches the length of the list. And it once again gives us the autofill options here. In this case, we've got a few more options. We've got a bunch of extra options here. Once again, we've got copy cells, which would just duplicate or replicate that 11th of Feb cell, or full series, which is the default here. Or you'll see here full days, full weekdays, in which case it actually skips over the weekend. And then we've got full months, in which case it goes the 11th of Feb, 11th of March, 11th of April, and so on. Or full years, so 11th of Feb, 2025, 26, 27, 28. So very smart, very intuitive, very flexible. And you can see that you can really customize the series according to your needs. Let's leave it on the default. And someone else mentioned months and years. That was Karen Raymond. So thank you for that. What we're going to do is we're actually going to do days of the week. So we know that today is Tuesday. So I'm going to type in TUE. I'm going to go to the bottom right. I'm going to double click, and there we go. You'll see that there are the first 3 letters of every weekday: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then it goes again. All right, all the way down. And once again, we've got some options here. We can skip over the weekend if we click weekdays. So once again, very, very flexible. And we can use this technique for months as well. So we might want to put in February. Okay, let's say we wanted to change Feb to February. We've already typed it in. We can edit this particular cell by pressing F2 and then typing in February. All right, and if we drag down, okay, now the date is not going to match exactly because it's going March, April, May. So what we can do is we can copy the cells. So we got February all the way down, but then we notice that these last 2 days in our list over here should be March. All right, so let's copy that down. I want to teach you one other keyboard shortcut because I know you're enjoying the keyboard shortcuts. And I want to teach you how to copy a cell down, all right, without touching the mouse. We can use Control C and then go 1 cell down with the down arrow and then press Control V. Or I can undo that and press Escape to get rid of that marching, we call it marching ants, that moving border around the cell. And what we can do instead is we can actually stand on the cell underneath the one we want to copy, and we can just simply press Control D. We want to copy it down or fill down from the cell above. So we can use Control and D to fill downwards. All right. If I wanted to fill down from the top of the list all the way down, I can jump up to the top of the list. How did I do that so quickly? I went from the bottom to the top with Control and the up arrow key. We call that the teleporter shortcut, the teleporter key. Control and the up arrow. All right. And notice that if I go control down, control up, control left, and control right, it gives me control to jump to the top, bottom, left, right, start, end of the data set. All right. And if I want to select from the top all the way down, I can use the shift key. I can hold the shift key and press the arrow down, or I can press control and shift. Hold down control and shift and press the arrow down. Control and shift and the arrow down. All right. And then if I press control D, it's going to fill down. So it's going to fill all the cells down from the top cell. Okay. So control D fills everything. It copies basically that whole thing downwards. I'm going to press control Z to undo. That might be a little bit tricky and a little bit overwhelming for you. This comes with practice, as with everything. And yeah, as I've said a few times, we are recording this especially so that you can be watching it live and you can revise and recap after the session. So you will be receiving a link to the recording of the session tomorrow morning via email. All right, guys, so that's a nice warm up. And if we go back with Alt and Tab to our cheat sheet, you'll notice here is the keyboard shortcut that we just showed you with control and the different arrow keys to move to the start or end of the data region. We also looked at shift and the arrow keys, as well as control and shift and the arrow keys to extend the selection to the start or end. Okay, so control, shift, and the arrow keys. Another great keyboard shortcut is to select all the cells in the data region, and all the cells, all starts with the letter A. I'm sure you've used that before. Control A selects all the data. If we were to press it again, it would select all the cells in the entire spreadsheet. Control A to select everything. All right, guys, we want to save our work. Remember, we saved as, you can see I've got my initials. I'm sure you've got your initials there. We want to save our work, so we can press Control S to save our work. And we want to do that frequently so that we don't lose our work. Next thing we want to do is go back to our data. We're conscious of time. We're almost at 9:30, so we've got another just about half an hour left. How do I switch between the different sheet tabs? I can use my mouse to toggle, or I can actually use control page down or control page up. All right, fun fact as well, you can use that in Google Chrome. So if I go to Google Chrome, all right, you'll notice that I've got the ability to add a new tab. I can click on the plus sign over there. I can also press Control T. I've now got new tabs, and I can toggle between the different sheet tabs using page up or page down. All right, I'm going to toggle between the different windows using Alt and Tab. And I'm going to go back to my cheat sheet just to recap. We've got control page down and control page up is to move one worksheet tab to the right or left. Okay. And another brilliant keyboard shortcut is, if you have a look here in our warm-up sheet, if we want to go to the end of the data, we can press Control End. And if we want to go to the start of the data, we can press Control and Home. Control End, Control Home. Takes us to the bottom right or to the top left. All right, now guys, once again, I've got Home and End on my keyboard over there. Maybe you can see it, Home and End. Your keyboard might be a bit more condensed. You might have Home and End shared with your F11 and F12 keys, or with your left arrow and right arrow, or up arrow and down arrow. It really depends on the layout of your keyboard. So you might need to press Control Function and Home, or Control Function and End. So just have a look at the specific layout of your specific keyboard. All right. All right, guys, so control page down or control page up to move between the different sheet tabs. And now it's exactly 9:30 and we are ready to tackle our actual data here in our spreadsheet. We are going to zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit bigger. We don't want you needing a microscope or a magnifying glass to see what we're doing on the screen here. So I've scrolled with the wheel on the mouse to zoom in. I've held Control on my keyboard and I'm scrolling with the wheel on the mouse. You'll notice there on the zoom bar that I'm now at 130% zoom. All right. and you will notice that we've got a lot of data. Now we know some tricks. We can navigate quickly. We can teleport to the very bottom of this data. We can go to the bottom of the column that we're in using Control and the down arrow key, and you can see that we've got 14,839 rows. All right, 14,839. All right. And if we jump back up to the top using Control and up arrow, takes us there. You can see the power of the teleporter key. In the blink of an eye, we back up to the top. And we can also use Control End to go to the last cell that's got any data or that's been used. And we can press Control Home to go to cell A1. All right, so you can see how powerful it is and how important it is to be able to navigate around our data quickly, swiftly, efficiently, easily, and accurately. Okay, as opposed to scrolling with the wheel on the mouse and getting a sore finger or sore knuckles, or holding down here, or grabbing this. It's going to take us a long time to scroll all the way down, and we are much quicker and more efficient using the keyboard shortcuts. All right. Now, guys, we've got a lot of data here. We've got almost 15,000 rows of data. We've got 10 columns. And one of our favorite tricks when it comes to working with data, and this is the first part of our Excel 202 course, is we love to use the keyboard shortcut for creating a table, converting our data into an Excel table. You'll see that on the Insert tab on the ribbon, we've got a bunch of buttons and features here. The first one being a pivot table, the second one being a recommended pivot table, and the third one being a table in Excel. And there you can see there's a shortcut for it, Control and T. This is the screen tip that pops up here, and it says create a table to organize and analyze related data. It makes it easy to sort, filter, and format data within a sheet. And there's also a little tell me more option over there. But what we're going to do is we are going to use the keyboard shortcut Control and T. We're just going to stand somewhere inside our data, and we're going to press Control T on our keyboard, and that's going to convert our data to a table, but not yet. It first pops up with a little box, and you can see here it says create table. Where is the data? It's automatically selected. That's the moving box that I was referring to. We call it marching ants. It looks like a whole colony of ants marching clockwise around our data. It's identified the full scope of the data for us. It's also identified that our table does indeed have headers. Sometimes it gets that wrong. Most of the time it gets it right. We can click OK, and boom, look at that. It's converted our ordinary plain looking data into a beautiful Excel table. All right, so congratulations, you have maybe just created your first Excel table, and I do believe that it's going to be a game changer for you with the way that you work with data in Excel. And that's because it not only looks good, but it also helps you to work smart when you are working on cleaning up, manipulating, sorting, filtering, and analyzing your data. It makes life a whole lot easier, and you're going to see that over the course of these 3 sessions. Okay, these 3 sessions will build on each other, so we're going to be continuing where we've left off at the end of this session. All right, and that'll be next week, same time, same place. Okay, so guys, let's have a look at some of the features of table mode. The first thing we notice is that it looks pretty good. All right, it looks much nicer. Why? Because we've got special formatting that's been applied. So we've got the header row in a special format, which is like a blue fill and then a bold white text. So the headings really pop out at us. We don't have to look hard for where the headings are and what the headings are. Next thing we notice is we've got these sort and filter buttons that have been activated here, which is nice. Next thing we notice is that we've got alternating blue and white rows, blue and white stripes. We've got alternating rows. All right, so it goes blue, white, okay, which is quite nice. And the next thing we notice is that we actually have a special tab, a contextual tab up at the top of our Excel ribbon. All right, this is called the ribbon with all these tabs. These sit here permanently. Okay, and when there's something new, okay, that's just disappeared, but that was a comment telling me that comments have changed. All right, so when Microsoft releases a new feature, often you'll see it pop up as a little notice. All right, we've got an automate tab. That's quite cool. Okay, that might be new. And then we've got a help tab. We've got an Acrobat tab. And then we've got a contextual tab, which is table design. Now, this is called a contextual tab because it's only when we're standing inside the data, inside the table, that it appears. If we go in no man's land out on the right-hand side, our tab disappears. So let's go back in, and there's the table design tab. You'll notice that this table has a specific name, which we can rename. All right, and you can see that it says edit the name of this table used to refer to it in formulas. So that's very useful. Okay, we're not going to be dealing with that today, but it's good to know that when we work with a data set that's a table in a formula, it's actually much easier because it's got a name. All right, we can resize the table if needs be. We can do a whole lot of things here with the data. But for now, what I want to look at is on the right-hand side, you can see that if I don't like blue, it's a bit too much for me. I might want to change it to gray or yellow or something else. At Excel Academy, we typically use one of these, the blue one or the orange one, and that's because we find that it works well for us. It creates, it draws specific attention to the headings. They pop in that color. And then it's a more subtle formatting for the alternating banded rows. How do I know it's called banded rows? Because there's the tick box for banded rows. It says even rows are formatted differently from odd rows, and it can make tables easier to read. You'll see if I turn it off, okay, it definitely looks a lot better with the banded rows turned on. It's a similar thing with banded columns, but it's maybe a bit much. All right, so we'll leave that off. Last column, what does that mean? Aha, it applies special formatting to the last column and the first column over there. All right, we can also turn the filter buttons off and on, and we can also do that on the data tab with that filter button. All right, and there you can see that there's a keyboard shortcut, which is Control Shift and the letter L. Okay, so we can practice that. L stands for list. We want to filter a list, Control Shift L. You can turn that on and off. All right, it's typically best to actually have them turned on so that we can sort and filter our data very quickly and easily without having to select all the data or select the entire column. We just go to the filter button. So for example, here in column E, we can click on the sort and filter button next to the heading course, and you'll see here that we've got the ability to sort A to Z or Z to A. We can also sort by color. We can apply special filters based on the text, and over here we can actually filter based on the unique items. And you'll see here that there are 4 unique items in this whole long list, and those unique items are Excel 101, 202, 303, and Outlook Secrets. And this data set that we're actually looking at is an export from our learning system, our learning management system, where people are logging in and completing our Excel training on our system, on our platform. And what we do is we log into the backend and we extract and download the data, the progress data of our students who are busy with our training. You'll know, or you'll be glad to know, that this is all jumbled up. So we've created a fictitious data set by taking all the actual names and then jumbling up the first names and last names and creating a bunch of random mobile numbers. So none of this is in contravention of POPI. We'll all be glad to know. And yeah, so that's what this data is. We've got progress. We've got 4 unique courses that people are busy with. We've got a measure of how many times each person has signed in. We've got a column for last activity, a column for SAST, a column for member since, and a column, which is too narrow, for the actual organization. All right. Okay, guys. So the purpose of this data set is to provide us with a real life exercise, a real life case study of understanding and really deep diving into how we can use Excel's tools and power to analyze our data, to interpret our data, and to make smarter business decisions using our data. All right. Because if you've just got a whole lot of data, but you don't know what it means and you don't know how to work with it, then it's almost meaningless. Okay. So it's about using these tools to get insights into our data. We're going to press Control S to save the work that we've done. And we're going to go back to our table design tab. And we've looked at almost all of these tick boxes here. The header row, all right, we might want to turn it off for whatever reason and then turn it back on. Okay, and the total row is really excellent. You'll see here that it says it's a row at the end of the table which displays totals for each column, and there's a keyboard shortcut, Control Shift T, and because we're keyboard people, aren't we? We're going to use Control Shift and T, and you'll notice that here we've got a total row underneath our data. We can turn it off, turn it on again, and you'll notice that we've got a count for the final column here, the organization column. There's a count, which is 14,838. That's the number of items in this column. We've also got a drop-down list of calculations in each of these columns where we can quickly and easily perform a calculation. So, for example, if we want to know what is the average progress across all these people, across all our courses, what's the average of this? We don't have to go and type in equals average of all of these cells, okay, that we might have had to do previously without a table. Instead, because we're in table mode and it's super smart and intuitive, we just go to this drop-down list. We click on this option over here, which says average, and it gives us calculation of the average, which is almost 88%. All right, if we want to know what the average sign-in count is, we can do the same thing over there. Or, excuse me, I'm still in the COVID habit of sneezing into the elbow. Do it enough times that it just becomes habit. Thank you, Avi. Okay, so the average sign-in count, we're going to show you a keyboard shortcut over here in order to activate this drop-down list. Then going to hold down Alt on our keyboard and press the down arrow key, Alt and the down arrow or the up arrow. All right, and that activates this drop-down, and then we can navigate through this drop-down using up or down. We're going to go to average. We're going to press enter, and there's the average number of sign-ins is 11.76. What do you think is the maximum number of sign-ins onto our platform? Let's have a look. So the max, once again, we press Alt and down to activate the drop down. We go to max, and somebody logged in 3,269 times, which must be a glitch. It must be a system error, or the person is just super eager, or procrastinates a lot and logs in, logs out, logs in, logs out. So it's a bit of a strange one. The minimum is probably 0. There we go. And the count, that makes sense. The count is the number of people, and we're going to go to average. All right. Okay. Now, you'll see that the formatting of these numbers needs a bit of work. Okay, so let's press Control S. Let's get into that habit of saving frequently, and let's move on to the formatting of these numbers. All right, you'll see the mobile numbers are missing a 0 at the front. If I had to ask you what your mobile number is, you'd probably say it's 082 or 072 or 069 or whatever it is. It typically does start with a 0, but the zeros here have fallen away. Why have they fallen away? Okay, I can't hear you, but I imagine that you were saying out loud that Excel thinks that they are a waste of time. They're insignificant. According to Excel, you would, if you typed in 0, 100, it would drop away the 0. You don't need to say 0, 100. So you would just say 100. So Excel drops away the zeros, and we need to tell Excel to put the zeros back. So we're going to stay tuned. We're going to deal with that in a few moments. All right. But first, we're going to do the progress column, which is column D. But how do we know that it's column D? We can see it's the progress column, which is pretty cool. And that's somewhat unexpected, because because we scroll down, weren't you expecting that? A, B, C, D, all the way to J. Okay, because that's what it typically has at the top. And then we can't see the headers, and that's because we haven't frozen the first row. We haven't applied a freeze pane. All right, what do I mean by freeze pane? If we go to the View tab, you'll notice that there's freeze panes. All right, and it says freeze a portion of the sheet to keep it visible while you scroll through the rest of the sheet. Okay, we haven't done that. But how come when I stood in my data, there I can see my headers? And that's another huge benefit of working in table mode. It's applied an automatic freeze pane. It's been intuitive. It knows that we're scrolling down and we still want to see the headings, and we still want to even use the sort and filter button. So it's kept it there. Instead of seeing A, B, C, D, which we probably don't need to know, it's changed those ABCs into the actual headers. Okay, so that's a good feature, an excellent feature of table mode. If you agree with me that working in table mode so far has been a real revelation and a game changer, give me a thumbs up or a applause or a party emoji or something from the reactions tab on Zoom. I want to know that you guys are enjoying this, that you're finding this valuable, and that you are awake. Okay, fantastic. All right, so guys, let's move on to formatting this particular column. Now, you probably know that in order to select a whole column in Excel, we click on the letter and it selects all the way down to how far? How far down does Excel go? If we press Control down, you'll see it goes down to over 1 million. Look at that. 1,048,576, all the way down to the bottom. If we press Control up, it jumps us back into the data. So that's once again the power of the teleporter shortcut, Control down or Control up. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to format 1 million cells. Okay, so just be careful. We don't want to format 1 million cells. What we can do instead is just click on the progress header there. And once again, another benefit of working in table mode is it's automatically just selecting the data inside the table. You'll see it's not including the total row. If we click it again, then it will include the total row. And then if we click it a third time, then it goes down to 1 million. Now, guys, what have I done? I've used my mouse with the left click just to click there. But what I can do to save a bit of time and become more confident with the keyboard is I can use Control and spacebar. Now, when aliens are thirsty, they've had a long day, they go where? Aliens go to the spacebar. All right, it's a big bar. It's actually on your keyboard as well. And you'll see that if you press Control spacebar, it selects the entire column. So there it is, Control and spacebar. If we click it again or press that keyboard shortcut again, then it includes the total row, which we want. Okay. And we now want to format these numbers as what? Let me know in the chat. What do we want to format these numbers as? Okay, they're currently unformatted. If we go to the Home tab, we'll see that they are general. Okay, they're in general number format. What do we want to format these numbers as? We want to format them as percentages. Okay, so if we hover over the percent button, you'll see that it says percent style, Control, Shift, and percent. To format these as a percent, Control, Shift, and the number 5. Number 5 on our keyboard. Okay, so the number 5 on the keyboard, where's it? It's over there, the number 5 on the top of your keyboard. We're not dealing with these numbers over here on the far right of our keyboard. On our number pad, we're dealing with this 5 over here, which has the percentage symbol attached to it. So Control Shift 5 to format as percent. If we want a decimal place, we can increase decimal by clicking over there. There we got 1 decimal. All right. Next up, we want to format. Okay, maybe this cell over here, you can see sign-in count. These are just whole numbers, but this average over here has a lot of decimal places. So maybe what we want to do is we want to reduce the decimals. So there we go. We got maybe 11.8 or 11.77. Okay. And then we want to go onto the last activity column. Now, let me know in the chat. I want to hear from you. I know that you guys are awake because I've seen the emojis, but I want to make sure that you are alert. What are these figures over here? This data, these data. I should actually say these data. Data is plural. What are these data here? Okay. Are they just arbitrary numbers or should they be formatted as something? Okay, last activity. David Tucker, thank you, Microsoft Dates. Okay, it's Microsoft's or Excel's date serial number. Okay, so it's the date number, meaning it's this cell that I'm on is 43,621 days since day 1. And day 1 in Excel's calendar was the 1st of Jan 1900. All right, 125 years ago. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to format this entire column. All right, you'll notice that sometimes you get this, in this case, it's a bit annoying. It's this little pop-up. Okay, it's a quick analysis. We can press escape to get rid of it. All we want is Control spacebar and then Control Shift and the number 3 on our top of our keyboard, Control Shift 3, which is Control Shift hash, and that converts it into a date format. If we don't like this particular date format, we can click on this drop down and say short date. Okay, we might prefer that. All right, and you'll notice here that member since is also a bunch of dates. If we press Control spacebar and we press Control Shift hash, then once again we get date format, and once again we can actually change it to short date. All right, I'm going to press Control Z and Control Z again, because what you can do instead of Control and Shift and 3, so repeating that same keyboard shortcut, is we can press Control spacebar and you can actually press Control Y on your keyboard, because Control Y is to redo. Now, let's segue for a moment to our quick access toolbar. Okay, what do I mean by quick access toolbar? Either at the top left of your screen, or like mine, which is just between the ribbon and the formula bar, this is known as your quick access toolbar. All right, you've got probably save, undo, and redo. All right, that's the default. I've removed those and I've changed them to a couple of custom buttons that I often use. All right, and you can see here there's a drop down to customize your quick access toolbar even further, or you can right click and you can say customize quick access toolbar, or let's say you love using the wrap text button on Excel. Okay, so what you can do is you can hover over that button, right click and say add to quick access toolbar, and then it puts it there. So I can right click and say remove it. Okay. And that is your quick access toolbar, which is great. And over the course of the next couple of sessions, at some stage, we will show you a magic key, which allows you to access any button or feature on the ribbon and on the quick access toolbar without touching your mouse. It's a magic key. You might have seen it. We covered in our Excel 101 course, and we will reveal it to you in good time. But for now, what I wanted to show you is that there is a redo button that's by default on your quick access toolbar. Mine's gone. But what it means is it's the opposite of undo. So undo is Control Z to undo what you've just done. Control Y is to redo what you've just done or redo what you've just undone. Okay. So if you did something nice that you thought was great and you want to repeat that somewhere else in your spreadsheet, you just press Control Y. All right. I'm going to go to short date, and there we go. All right, guys. So we have made a lot of progress. We're sitting at 9:52, so we've got 8 minutes left on the clock here. And we said that we would deal with these mobile numbers, didn't we? All right, the annoying formatting default when it comes to Excel, where it drops away the 0. You'll see that in ID numbers as well with people born in 2000 or later. And it drops away the 0 at the beginning of the ID number. You'll see it sometimes with postal codes, like in Pretoria, the postal code might be 0081, and then it just shows us 81. So what we do is we apply a custom number format. But the first step is, once again, Control Spacebar to select the entire column. All right. And then what we want to do is we want to go into the Format Cells dialog box. All right. And we get there one of a few different ways. All right, you might know that if you right click, then you can go to Format Cells, right click Format Cells. All right, you might also know that if you go to the bottom right hand corner of this number group on the ribbon, you'll see that that opens up the Format Cells box. You might have also noticed that at the bottom of this drop down list over here, it says more number formats. That also takes us to the Format Cells dialog box with all these special number formats. And last but not least, in fact, last, but in my opinion, the best way is to actually press Control 1 on our keyboard, which opens up the Format Cells dialog box as per Avi's message in the chat. All right, we're now in the Format Cells dialog box, and we can go to different number formats, currency formats, accounting formats, or we can go down to custom. All right. And we don't want a custom date format. There you can see in the sample that that's not going to interpret it very well. All right. What we want to do instead is just have a look here, and you'll see that there's a whole lot of different codes. And all of this is code for different number formats. You'll see that we've got hashes and zeros and spaces and semicolons, a whole lot of stuff going on. You'll also notice, interestingly, that there's R's, and that is a symbol for rands. All right, you'll also notice that we've got square brackets with red. So that means that when a value is negative, it's going to come up in red. So don't get too bogged down by all of this. We've got percentages, we've got D's, M's, and Y's to denote days, months, and years. We've got hours and minutes. It's just good to know that there's a whole lot of custom number formats here. Okay, and of course there's general, which means that it's just the general unformatted number. What we want to do is where it says type, we want to select that by double clicking or highlighting that word, and we want to put in a bunch of zeros. How many exactly? We need to put in 10. So if I've put in 3, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And on the 10th one, it puts in a 0 at the start before these other 9 digits. Okay. And that's exactly what we want. So essentially what we're telling it with these 10 zeros is that we've got a 10-digit number that must always have 10 digits. And if there are any digits missing, it will just pad it with extra zeros. So if you had a 4-digit number there, it would put in 6 zeros. in this case, in our case, we've got 9 digits in all of these numbers, and therefore it's just putting in that extra 0 to make it a 10-digit number. All right, so if you had a postal code, you would put in 4 zeros because postal codes in South Africa are 4 digits. Okay, and we can click OK, and there we go. You'll notice that we now have zeros before all these numbers here. But if you have a look in your formula bar, you'll see that the 0 is still missing because the 0 is not actually part of the number. It's just being displayed with a 0. So you can see it's displaying it with a 0 here. And happy days. All right, guys. So the time's 9:56. This is probably a good place to end. What we are going to do is we're going to press Control and S on our keyboard to save. All right. And we are going to do a quick recap of what we've done. Remember, we started today with a warm-up. We learned about the fill handle. We filled this list from 1 to 20. We then learned about control semicolon in order to punch in today's date. We then learned about the double click on the fill handle in the bottom right-hand corner to snap it all the way down. Okay, we also learned about the autofill options. Okay, and then we saw how we could type in TUE for Tuesday and then double click that down. By the way, you might want to actually change this to Tuesday, the full name of the day of the week, in which case we can double click to get into that cell and then edit instead of typing it from scratch. Or we can use a great keyboard shortcut, which I hinted at earlier when we looked at the cheat sheet. All right. F2 on our keyboard is to edit a cell. Remember, it might be function and F2. It takes us inside the cell, and then we type Tuesday. It hasn't automatically filled in all the days of the week with the full days. It's only done the first one, but we can snap it down there with the double click on the bottom right-hand corner, and there we go. We've got the full list of the days of the week. And then remember, we applied February all the way down to here, and then we said March for those last 2. And we also learned about Control D, which is the keyboard shortcut to fill downwards. Okay, then we learned about keyboard shortcuts for navigating around our data quickly and efficiently using Control and the arrows. We learned about Control and A to select all the data. We learned about Control page down to go to a different sheet tab, or Control page up to go to a sheet tab on the left. All right, we learned about Control and Home to go to cell A1. We learned about Control T to format our data as a table, which was really, we started getting to the real meat of the session today, to start working deeper with this data and starting to understand how to format the data and to work with this data so it starts making sense to us and starts telling a story. And I think the very last thing that we're going to cover for today is actually just to widen these columns, because remember what we said, and we can see over here, this final column is spilling over the edges. So what we're going to do is we're going to click with our mouse in the top left-hand corner on that triangle, or we could press Control A and again 3 times. And then what we want to do is we want to take our mouse cursor between any 2 of these column letters, and we can click and drag, but it's better, in fact, just to double click. And what that does when we double click is it auto fits all the column widths. You can see I've actually got it on my quick access toolbar. So if I press Control Z and I click there we go. It auto fits the column widths. By the way, you can, as I said, you can customize the quick access toolbar. In my case over here, what I've done is on the home tab, on the format button, I've got the auto fit column width button there. I right click and I say add to quick access toolbar, and I use it a lot. So that's actually my first button there on my quick access. Okay, so now I've auto fitted the column widths. I've pressed Control S, and this is where we are going to stop for today. Join us next week, as I said, time, same place, same Zoom link, and we're going to continue our work on this data. We're going to look at sorting and filtering our data. We're going to look at conditional formatting. We're going to look at pivot tables and pivot charts, and just really interpreting and analyzing and presenting our data that much better with insights and a lot more intelligence and confidence. All right, so guys, drop us a note in the chat. Let us know what you liked about this session. What was your favorite part? Yeah, a big thank you to Avi. I know Avi's about to catch an Uber to the airport in Cape Town. So a huge thank you to Avi for joining us on the go. And a big thank you to each of you for being here, for giving us your time and giving us the opportunity to work together on this data and hopefully give you a whole lot of practical skills and insights. So thank you, Adrian and Heather. Thank you to all of you who have been with us this morning. Let us know what you enjoyed. Pop us a message in the chat. Let your friends, family, and colleagues know about this three-part series.